In the near future, an unstoppable horror strikes. Countless demons suddenly descend upon the world. A mother, seeking to escape the devastation, takes her 2 children deep into the forest. Every time they venture out to find food, the mother warns her children about the terrifying creatures lurking in the woods, instructing them to never untie the ropes around their bodies. Otherwise, the monsters will capture them and they'll never find their way home again. One day after leaving their shelter, the mother spots a possessed spirit and quickly averts her gaze. The mother and her children split up, each searching for anything edible, even if it means hunting a small squirrel. For the children, survival becomes a daily struggle as they gather food in the forest, although they never actually encounter the monsters their mother warned about. This leads the younger child, Little Hay, to start doubting his mother's words. On one particular day, with their ropes still secured, they head out as usual in search of food. Taking a risk, Little Hay climbs a tree to collect bird eggs for protein, only to find that the eggs are broken. However, he soon notices a lone egg nearby on the grass. Filled with excitement, he tries to grab it, but his rope has reached its limit, and he can't move forward. Determined, Little Hay considers untying the rope, but his older brother, Big Hay, sees this and warns him against it, threatening to blow the whistle to call their mother. On their way back home, Big Hay taunts Little Hay, bragging that their mother actually cares more about him. Enraged, Little Hay steps on Big Hay's rope, causing him to lose balance and tumble down a slope. Even worse, Big Hay's foot gets caught in a tree root. Panicked, Little Hay blows the whistle, calling their mother for help. In this moment, he realizes that Big Hay's rope has come undone. Sensing danger around them, Little Hay quickly unties his own rope to try and help his brother out of harm's way. At that moment, their mother arrives just in time to see a creature, a terrifying old woman with a forked tongue, crawling in their direction. Seeing the danger, the mother quickly cuts the ropes, grabs her children, and pulls them to safety up a slope. She then ties the 3 of them together, but the creature continues circling, looking for a chance to attack. Fortunately, it soon gives up and vanishes. Back home, however, the mother is furious. Once inside, she pulls out a scalpel, coldly commanding her sons to place their hands on the ground, a dark and foreboding punishment awaiting them. Hearing this, the 2 children didn't dare forget to place their hands down obediently. After making sure the 2 children obeyed her and placed their hands down, the mother relaxed and put away her scalpel. She helped her eldest son, Big Hay, onto the couch and found that he had only twisted his ankle, which would heal quickly with some medicinal ointment. Next, she went outside to repair the ropes for her 2 children. It was then that she discovered the creature that had been haunting them had somehow tracked them down to their little cabin. Each night after dinner, the 2 brothers would take turns staying in the cellar for about an hour, a routine Big Hay had become accustomed to but which his younger brother Little Hay had grown weary of. One night before bed, Little Hay admitted that he had purposely stepped on his brother's rope and confronted Big Hay about his earlier bragging that their mother favored him more. But Big Hay couldn't remember ever saying that. Then Little Hay suddenly asked if their mother might actually kill them, pointing out that after their father had supposedly been touched by a monster, she hadn't hesitated to wield a knife against him. Meanwhile, outside, the mother was sharpening her knife, creating a chilling sound with each stroke. Suddenly, she noticed something approaching. Their father, appearing unharmed, had returned. The mother initially pretended not to see him, but he menacingly demanded that she hand over the 2 children as food, threatening that she would eventually kill everyone in the house. The next day, while helping his mother with chores, Little Hay noticed a black snake tattoo on her back. Curious, he asked about the world outside, but his mother insisted that only demons remained out there, dismissing her tattoo as a relic from the old days. Little Hay wasn't convinced and continued to question her, wondering why they never saw these demons. Sensing her son's doubts, she shared horrifying tales of demons luring humans in and turning family members against each other, telling him that once you saw a demon, it was already too late. As winter approached, food became scarce, and the family stores were nearly empty, reduced to a single clove of garlic. With great restraint, the mother divided it between the children. That night, after the children had gone to bed, the mother woke up to clean herself, but Little Hay appeared silently behind her. After repeatedly calling his name without a response, she realized he was sleepwalking and had forgotten his bell. She gently carried him back to bed and made sure his bell was secured around his wrist. The following morning, she tied 3 ropes together to extend the length, hoping to venture further to find food for the winter. Just then, she saw a crow pecking at what looked like Little Hay's corpse. Startled, she quickly realized it was just a hallucination and raised her crossbow to shoot the crow. After this, she had to resort to cooking tree bark for food, but she knew it wouldn't last. They were slowly starving. One day, while gathering bark, Little Hay heard a terrifying scream behind him, but he couldn't find anything when he looked around. To his horror, his mother and brother were nowhere to be found. Suddenly, the rope on the ground began to move, pulling him toward an old, dried-up well. In the blink of an eye, daylight turned to darkness, and before he could understand what was happening, he saw their family dog. Just as he was about to call out to it, his mother appeared and forcefully dragged him back home, revealing that it was all just a nightmare. To punish him for forgetting his bell, she locked him in the cellar, where he remained until he was so scared that he wet himself. That night, Little Hay confessed to his brother that they needed to escape before their mother eventually killed them, but Big Hay refused to listen. With each passing day, hunger wore the mother down, and her hallucinations worsened. Finally, one day she took out a camera to capture happy moments with her children, using this as an opportunity to suggest killing their dog for food. Big Hay agreed, but Little Hay vehemently refused. Ignoring his protests, the mother dragged the dog toward the storage room to slaughter it, though it pained her greatly. Just as she was about to deliver the fatal blow, Little Hay appeared behind her with a knife, cutting off her hand and locking her in the room as she begged for mercy. Big Hay, who wanted to save their mother, turned on his brother and overpowered him. Meanwhile, their mother shattered a window in her attempt to escape but was confronted by the monster that had been stalking them. In a desperate act to protect her children, she used a shard of glass to slit her own throat. Big Hay, traumatized, tied himself securely with a rope, remembering his mother's warnings, while Little Hay, now fully aware of the danger, also tied himself up. From that point on, the brothers lived by their mother's rules, and Little Hay took on the task of gathering food. One day, as he ventured deeper into the woods, he stumbled upon a road leading to the outside world. Shocked, he shouted for help but received no response. Forced to return home, he encountered a man who was hiking nearby and heard his cries. The man offered them food from his backpack, but Big Hay, suspicious, shot at him, thinking he was a demon. Taking advantage of the man's weakened state, Little Hay stole his backpack, which he later found contained a treasure trove of food. Despite Big Hay's continued belief that the man was a demon, he too eventually gave in and ate the food. Afterward, while rummaging through the backpack, he found items that made him doubt their mother's warnings. One night, Big Hay heard noises in the storage room. When he entered, he found their mother's decomposing body but nothing else. As he prepared to leave, he heard a little girl's voice calling for her father. The girl recognized a flashlight from the backpack and demanded to know where her father was. Ashamed, Big Hay admitted he had mistaken the man for a demon. The girl ran away and Big Hay, believing her to be real, untied his rope to chase her. But as he got further from the house, he saw hands reaching toward him from behind a tree. A demon appeared and before he could react, extended its tongue into his mouth, possessing him. Little Hay awoke to find his brother missing and hurried outside to search. Eventually, he heard Big Hay calling, only to see a strange figure appear, cutting his rope and leaving him stranded in the forest. When Little Hay finally escaped and returned home, he found Big Hay waiting, wielding a knife. In a desperate attempt to survive, Little Hay set a fire to block him, climbing onto the roof to escape as Big Hay watched below. Trapped, Little Hay chanted a prayer his mother had once whispered to him on dark nights, his voice echoing through the flames. Firefighters broke through the blaze, rescuing him just in time. As they airlifted him to safety, he glanced back and there stood Big Hay, twisted and unrecognizable, his eyes empty, staring blankly into the fire. When Little Hay later examined the photographs they had taken together, his heart froze. A demon's claw was resting ominously on Big Hay's shoulder, a silent warning that his brother had been claimed by something far darker than he'd ever imagined.